got us. All righty. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Spirit Center for Spiritual Living, Boulder Valley. Phew, I'm Catherine Snyder. We're in Lafayette, Colorado. And Centers for Spiritual Living is an organization that teaches that each of us is a divine being, that what we say and what we think matters. And you can change your life by changing that, the things that you're thinking and the things that you're feeling. And our vision and passion is to teach you how to do that, to teach you how to become the very best that you are. So we start each one of these talks with a type of prayer that we call affirmative prayer. It's not beseeching to an outside God, but rather letting that divinity come forth, letting it go out and draw to us what we do desire, declaring the truth of who we are and what this day will be. And Jim Shink is going to do our opening prayer today.
Thank you, Catherine. I'd like to start this service. I'd like to start all my prayers with 1 or 2 deep breaths. I mean deep, being taking in as much as you can and then slowly letting it out. Let's all do that at once, okay? Now we find that spot inside everyone that represents the light and the love of life. We are so blessed to have this ability to express God through us and by us. So glad to know that they have our best interests at heart. Thank you. And please give us the open mind and open heart to accept this message today. And I know that we all will receive the inspiration to carry on, to move forward, to know that our best good and highest good is coming to us. And say with me, and so it is.
Thank you, Jim. Our speaker today is Reverend Linda Reppond. Rev Linda has been in Science of Mind since 2014. They became a practitioner at the Universal Spirit Center in San Diego, California in 2018, a licensed minister in 22.
Catherine, that's not me. That's somebody else.
Well, that's great.
I am going to pause the recording for a moment. There we go. I am so sorry. Gracious sakes, Linda, I am so sorry.
No worries.
You know what?
Sounded good though. It's okay.
In that case, I don't have your bio directly at my fingertips.
I can introduce myself if you'd like.
So do you mind if I don't?
I can introduce myself.
Thank you. All right.
Re-record.
Okay, we're still recording. All right, our speaker today is Rev Linda Reppond, who's going to tell you about herself and the wonderful things she's done and then give us a wonderful message. So thank you, Linda. Please go.
Thanks, Catherine. It's nice to be back with you. I was with you earlier this summer and just had the best time because my favorite kind of church is where you can talk back. So you know, I get to talk for a little while, but then you get to talk back, and I love that. I'll tell you a little bit about who I am. I am a retired minister, sorta, and my primarily with young adults. And I started the launching pad in Berkeley, California, and which was a dedicated young adult church. I'm still the elder and mentor for the Next Gen Retreat, which is the young adult retreat group. So that's kind of been my ministry. I found Science of Mind in the year 2000 and became a minister in 2006. And so coming up on close to 20 years. So I've been doing this for a little while. It's still the guiding principles of my life, and it's still what I'm here to do and be. I can tell you a little bit about what's about to happen in my life, because I'm moving to Tacoma, Washington next weekend, which is kind of weird because I'm not a person who moves a lot. But I've been building a cabin on an island in Puget Sound. It's a kind of tiny house cabin. And what became clear to me is that that is a ministry, that what I am to do there is really offer a place for people to come kind of unplug from life, figure out their life, write their book, do whatever. And so I'm moving up there to really sort of be near that. As soon as that calling came through, I got 3 bookings, like boom, 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 without even saying anything to anybody, because I just finished it. People knew that the tiny house was finished. So I'm now, it's booked through January. So I think this is a ministry that's happening. So that's when I say I'm retired, I'm kind of semi-retired, because I'm going to do this thing with one-on-one retreats with people. That's who I am. Let's launch into what I want to talk about today. I don't think any of us can escape the fact that we're 2 days from a national election. It's certainly permeated the sound waves. I'm getting texts, I don't know, multiple times a day to give more money. You may have some things in your life as well, but I just feel like this is a moment in time that it's time to take a deep breath and really kind of be aware and be able to be maybe to be a container for the emotions that are going on. I don't know about you, but I have been able to feel the tension just out in the world. It just seems like drivers are a little more aggressive. People are more argumentative, even with like service workers, like waitresses and clerks, and they're just like, it sounds to me, it feels to me energetically like we're just wound really tight because we don't know what's going to happen. And of course, the scenarios that are being painted by at least the 2 top national candidates are very different scenarios. And so we don't know what's going to happen. And I think the thing that is most prevalent in my awareness is that sense of othering that we have fallen into as a people, as a country. That there's me and what I believe, and there's them over there, and the difference between me and them is that me and all the people I believe are humans, and those other people are like something else. They're this growing divide between us. Am I the only person feeling that way? You're nodding. I get it. So the thing that I just keeps coming back to me is that this teaching of science of mind, where we're teaching oneness, the opposite of othering, we have an opportunity in the whatever is going to unfold in the next few days in our societal life as a country. We have an opportunity to hold a container of wholeness, of peace, of trusting a deeper good is at work, regardless of the outcome of this particular election, or even if we know what the outcome is, that what we get to experience is an understanding that God is at work even in all of this. So I could stop there and say that's the whole talk. We're done, but I got some more things I want to say about it. The kinds of things that we've been separating ourselves over, of course, is race, religion, gender, economic class, education, all of those things. And what we're doing, when I think about that sense of othering, I think about my own family, and that Thanksgiving is coming, Christmas is coming, and we're all going to sit at the same table, regardless of the outcome of what happens in this election. There's going to be feelings on all sides. And the people I most want to not be othering are my actual family. That more the whole world, but really like that. I don't want to be othered by them, and I don't to be othering them. And yet our worldviews are quite different, and our reactions to whatever the result of the elections are going to probably be diametrically opposite. Anybody else have a family like that? Yeah. And if not family, it may be a coworker or a neighbor, or but we all know people who believe differently than us. And perhaps like me, you have also felt the being othered experience from either some of those people are people you don't actually even know, just because you have a sticker on your car, or a sign in your yard, or just whatever. So I'm personally really exhausted by all of that. I just, because I fall into it. It's a story I would like to say I'm over, and yet I fall into it, time after time after time, because they make me mad. And it's just there are words that have become accepted language when we're talking about our national, where we're moving as a country, and they're words like alien and illegal, deeply othering words, that are not just an immigrant. It's an illegal immigrant or an alien immigrant, and it is meant to divide. And I'm not gonna get into my politics, because I could, but I know I'm not supposed to, so I won't. But that experience just feels to me like this deep fissure is calling for healing, and that God is calling us to be active in that world. Yes, that we have some ability to bring peace, because we know how to pray in a way that calls it in and has it manifest in front of us. How did we get here? Do you remember the children's book, the Dr. Seuss book called The Butter Battle Book? It's a Dr. Seuss always speaks in these like amazing rhymes, but the story of the book, and I used to read it to my children who are now adults when they were little, is there were these two neighboring communities divided by a wall, and they were the Zooks and the Rooks, I think is the two names. And the difference between them, which had become a deep divide, is that one ate their bread with the butter side up, the other ate their bread with the butter side down. And so they came over a period of time to really hate the other people, because they didn't know how to eat bread. And so there was this ever escalating war. And then of course there's this little child who's like, this doesn't make any sense. But that deep division is because generation after generation, people had been taught to hate these other people. And the reason, whatever the original battle was about, was long forgotten. And there's just this remaining us and themness that I think for me in my life has been so deeply embedded in my psyche from my early childhood that most of the time I don't even recognize it as a story. Many times I do. I feel like I've done a lot of personal work. I'm like, I'm evolved. I'm a minister, but deeply beneath that, there are biases that show up in the strangest, weirdest places. Now, I'm a Baptist preacher's daughter, and I grew up in central Louisiana. And there was a whole culture that went with both parts of that life. I moved to Washington State as a teenager, and so I escaped becoming a Baptist preacher's wife, which was probably my destiny if life had gone on there. God help me. But some of the deeply embedded stories were about class and race. And in my family, listen to this, listen to the prejudice. In my family, we're pretty highly educated. I have a PhD, as did both my parents. My dad was a minister. My mom was a nuclear physicist. I believe in education. You hear it like, I'm this. There are people who are not this, push them away. I grew up at a time in the 1950s when churches and schools were segregated. And so I did not actually know people of color until I moved to Washington State. But I, of course, lived in a culture that was like deeply divided. So my idea of race was the woman who came and did my mom's ironing. That was kind of it. So all of those things, as I grew up and learned to see people as people, and had friends and actually boyfriends who were people of color, all of that's gone, and yet I can even now be in an urban situation. This is happening because I'm learning a new city, but I find myself in a neighborhood that feels a little scary, and I look up and I see Black men on each corner, and something in me that's like 5 years old freezes. I would like to have that disappear, but it's there. It's because it's the story that got embedded in my subconscious. It's not in my conscious. Is that making sense? So in the Butter Battle book, that was the story of, we're so other. We're better than, we're educated, we're smart, we know how to eat bread with the butter side up, for goodness sake. It's like, that's an important thing. And I think I, and maybe all of us, are unconscious of the stories until they pop up, or sometimes still even after they pop up. Like, oh, that's me buying into something that's not what I actually believe these days. Because I believe, to my toenails, I believe in oneness. I believe that we're all made of the same cloth. And yet, Catherine, can you play this little video? I think this is a song that probably most of us know, because you look like you're all in a roughly my generation, maybe not quite so old. But this is that, remember the song from South Pacific? You got to be carefully taught.
All right.
Remember that song?
Yes.
This one.
I'm sorry. Did someone want to say something?
No, I think I had another music just
Okay.
going really loudly.
So I just want to talk for a few minutes about where, aside from that we were taught, where did it land in us when we got that teaching as children? And I would say for most of us, it's in a delusion we have about being special, that we wanted to be, we were desperate for acknowledgement. We wanted to see ourselves as important. We're this, we want to be this, we aspire to be this. And to do that in our minds, I think as children, it's like we got to push somebody else down so that we're up. And so when that teaching comes in, it lands that way, like, oh, this makes me special. And I think I probably raised both of my children to believe they're special, because they certainly act like it now. So I'm guilty. But in some cases, specialness leads to greatness. That's in some cases when you're taught that you are a notch above everybody else, that you're gifted, you're smart, you're capable, you're pretty, if those are the messages that you're getting, sometimes the result of that is that you have a self-esteem that elevates you to a place where you become a leader, or a famous person, even. That pretty much all of the famous people came from somebody telling them little, even if they grew up in poverty and have a story about coming, rising out of that. Somebody in their life told them that they were special, and they got to be special. But it can also lead to, depending on how it's taught and how it's received, a variety of other things like narcissism and cruelty and hatred. That specialness has to be at the expense of somebody else. But I do believe that the source of it, of not necessarily of the message, because I think the message is what we were given, but how it landed on our need as children to be somebody, to be somebody special to somebody in our world. And that's I know for me that continues to be a place where I can get hooked. When somebody wants to introduce me and say lots of things about me. So I was kind of glad you didn't do that today, Catherine. There's a part of me that just kind of sits up a little taller, like, yeah, I'm all that. But that doesn't serve me. That doesn't serve me to be in a space of love and caring and service. It serves to make me feel special and different, which is othering. So another way of saying othering. Okay, so enough about that. How do we wake up from being people who other? How do we move from that early teaching or those deeply held invisible beliefs into being people of prayer that we can and right now I think need to be? Well, first of all, I would say I think we have to see the story that keeps us separating ourselves from other people, and just notice whether it's in traffic or in a checkout line in a store or wherever you are in a place with you and other people. Listen to that inner story that's going on about who I am, Like I need them to hurry up because I'm in a hurry. What does that mean? What am I saying to myself? So just beginning to listen to the stories that are running into our head with a
I was
consciousness,
hoping coffee was going to be coming in.
with a consciousness of wanting to understand it. Because once we can see it, we can choose a different story. I mean, that's really the essence of what we teach. Is once I see that this is a story that has been running me and re-triggering me, I can consciously choose another story, and I can begin to build that into my first conscious thought. I think too that some of it gets grounded in our beliefs about human nature, about who and what we are. I think there are many schools of thought, but the two that I would say are predominantly lines of thought is there's a belief that we are innately savages. Like there is a deep in our DNA, an aggression, a like self-protection of like, if I have to kill you to live, I'll kill you because I need to live. That will to live, that it's based in that we are still animals in some way, deeply hidden from our awareness, but that's there. The other school of thought, which is the one I ascribe to, is what we're teaching in Science of Mind, which is that we are born whole, perfect, and complete. We are born as straight from the divine source as it gets. And that, like they say in the South Pacific song, we have to be taught how to hate. That who we come in with is whole and perfect. Now, some of you remember that when I was the Youth and Family Services Director at Home Office many years ago, because I spoke at your center back then. But I have always been in working with youth, even before ministry. I worked in youth services for my whole career. And so kids are my population. And the difference is dramatic in what you teach children in Sunday school curriculum. When you're in a church that teaches that, without being saved, you would innately continue to be bad, and you would do bad things, and you would, be in need of punishment and probably should be punished. That is a whole school of thought that is taught in Sunday school, in many places. So I've many times trained teachers in science who are new to Science of Mind, but love to work with kids. And that's sort of the core of it is like, no, we're going to take a different tack. We're going to say that this child has things to teach me because they are more recently from source than I am. At their very nature, they are perfect, and they haven't been indoctrinated the way I have. Maybe they're in that process, depending on how old they are. But that really it's less deeply embedded in them that they're bad or that they need to be punished or disciplined. So that is, I think, at the core of our teaching is this idea that, wait, I am God itself. God is I am. God is I am. That's how we pray. That I am the embodiment of that divine, ever present source of life and love. That just doesn't mix with a story that says you're flawed. It's just that those two can't fit together in the same package. So it's a choice. It's a choice about what we want to believe. That if we want to continue to believe that, without strong guardrails, we're going to like go off the deep end and do horrible things to ourselves or others or both. Or we can choose to believe that I am uncovering all of that training that taught me otherwise, to find that at my core, I am pure light. I am pure love. And from that core, I can expand out in the world and do good. They really are two diametrically opposed points of view in the world. And I think that, for me anyway, I have a mixture of both. I have the work that I've been consciously doing for 25 years now in ministry, and I have the way I was raised, and they intermingle in ways I wish I could like say, no, that one's gone, but it's still there. So I think the task for all of us, and I really think all of us have to commit to doing our own work as individuals, and then coming together. I know you're a small but mighty band there, but we come together in community to strengthen and enlarge that light, to allow that light to shine more brightly. Our individual lights coming together make a brighter light. Martin Luther King said, "We are tied together in the single garment of destiny, caught in an inescapable network of mutuality. What affects one directly affects all indirectly." Of course, Ernest Holmes had something to say about it too. I love this. "There is a point in the moment of supreme realization where a sense of the oneness of all life so enters one's being that there is no sense of otherness." Let's pray. So just turning within and recognizing that that infinite presence of life, of love, of wholeness is permeating the very air around us. It is all around, within and without each of us, because it is absolutely all there is. And so right now, I simply let go of any belief in there being anything other than that wholeness of life, and recognize that as the truth of my own being. That is the truth of each of our inner beings, that we are at a cellular level made of pure light, of pure love. The God force in the universe lives and breathes as me, as you, as each of us. And so just simply allowing that pervading sense of oneness to guide this conversation, to guide our actions, to guide our thinking. I simply call on that source, that one force of life itself, to dispel any place where I carry darkness, any place where I have a story of othering, where I want to have somebody be less so I can be more. I just inquire and allow, I guess the word is the best word, allow that light to dispel that sense of darkness, because the darkness wasn't even real to start with. It was just because I hadn't been shining the light there. So I invite that light to open and reflect the goodness of God, of wholeness, of life in every corner of my being. I speak this word for myself. I speak this word for each of us in this Zoom room, knowing that it is absolutely the truth in the wholeness of life. And for that, I'm grateful. Thank you, God. And so it is.
And so it is. Thank you, Linda. Wow. We all have an opportunity to know that a deeper wisdom is at work. And come together in community to strengthen and enlarge that light. That was, wow. All right. It's now time for our discussion. But before I stop the recording, here at Centers for Spiritual Living, we do believe that one gives or one receives spiritual nourishment and inspiration. So if you found value in the message, if you want to contribute to our work, feel moved to make a donation of any size, please make a love offering at cslbouldervalley.org/donate. All right, I'm stopping the recording now and we can begin our discussion. If you're watching this recording later and would like to be part of our conversation next time, please find the Zoom link on our website, cslbouldervalley.org. We meet online via Zoom on the 1st, 3rd, and 5th Sundays at 10 a.m. Mountain Time and in person in between. I hope to see you there. Excuse me again. Okay.